was sitting there thinking about the Matt LaFleur Rodgers relationship and how maybe will that be able to save the day? Because if you see what the problem was in the drafting of Love and not letting Rodgers know about it, it makes no sense. It makes no sense right now for a lot of people because you're viewing it through the prism of his MVP season. But we need to view it through the prism of before it. Chris, you remember we were it was the spring of 2019. We were in New York City, I believe, part of our audience show at the time, the show on Audience Network in the beautiful studio there in Tribeca. And a story came out in Bleacher Report about McCarthy and Rodgers no longer, the reason why McCarthy eventually was gone and now LaFleur has come in is because the last several months of the McCarthy-Rodgers relationship had thoroughly deteriorated. And a lot of it you also heard from a lot of unnamed sources that Rodgers had some fingerprints on the problems as well that ailed the franchise. Some of the fingerprints were Rodgers himself. And some of them were Rodgers trying to fix what he thought were the fingerprints of McCarthy, changing plays and things like that, looking at the sideline like, really? And let's not forget, when LaFleur was hired, a 39-year-old guy, never been a head coach before, this is the guy that is now being attached to Aaron Rodgers in his final years in Green Bay. However long that may be.
Right.
And can the Rodgers leopard change even some of his spots to be hooked up to a new coach who's coming in from the, if you will, Shanahan world? Is he willing to do it? Can he do it? Remember, that was the whole conversation that summer, right? It was the whole conversation is what, how's it going to work? Will Rodgers accept the plays coming in? Will Rodgers be a good soldier? Yeah. That was the whole conversation.
Oh, yeah. Is he going to audible all the time like he used to with McCarthy?
And then they went 13-3. So Rodgers, even if let's just say the narrative and all the conversations that were being had is somewhat close to accurate. And Rodgers did accept the reality that this is going to be his new head coach. And Rodgers did sign a long-term contract. And he is attached at the hip with Matt LaFleur in Green Bay. And he needed to figure out how to make it work. And he did to the tune of 13-3. Appearing in an NFC championship game nobody thought was possible. Nobody. Outside of maybe that locker room and the cheesehead nations like my buddy Murph who believed it could be possible. I don't think even he believed it. Most Packers fans couldn't believe it, and they did get boat raced in the game. But hey, they'll address it in the draft, right? And it was under those circumstances in which they drafted Jordan Love and traded up to go get him. After Rodgers did make the transition. It takes two to tango. Coach could do all he wants. And he could try and lay down his law or his culture or whatever he's selling. Needs the help of somebody like Rodgers for others to buy. And they did it to the tune of 13-3. And then they traded up to get Jordan Love and didn't tell Rodgers about it. It's mind-blowing. Because don't forget what happened that led to the point. Because we're all talking about what's happened since that point.
Right.
That's all we're talking about. But don't forget the lead up to it has got to be grating on the guy when he's not hanging with the tellers and jumping into waterfalls and having a time of his life. You know what I mean? It's just, I can't believe they did it.
Yeah, it's mind-blowing.
Because it starts a clock. It absolutely starts a clock. That's why Rodgers said he threw a wrench into it by winning an MVP, because the clock, when you draft somebody in the first round, means you got to get him on the field sooner rather than later. And now the later is much sooner because Rodgers is saying, I'm the people. I still can't believe they did it. That's what I was thinking about. Maybe I should have been thinking about that when I went all in, when I shouldn't have. Because the Packers sure had that same maneuver. They went all in on the next step. And Rodgers is spiking on the river and felting Gutekunst right now. Hey, you watched all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Watch more right here.